Good morning and welcome to the Region of Queens Municipality Regular Council, Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. It's 9 a.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any changes to the meeting? Any changes to the agenda? If not, I'll ask for approval of the agenda, moved by Councillor Gidney, seconded by Councillor Charlton. All those in favor? There are no presentations this morning. Are there any petitions to table? Public question comment session. I ask anyone who wishes to address council to proceed to the podium, provide your name and your civic number, and people are allotted 5 minutes for any comments. Does anyone wish to speak to council?
Good morning. Mabel Wisniewski, 34 Mersey Avenue, Liverpool. On September 12th, I stood in front of you and made a suggestion or an inquiry whether any compensation would be coming to those of us who have had to boil water. And I have to say, I watched the meeting of the 26th of September and I was elated to see that there's some backroom discussion had taken place and it's now in the hands of the URB. And I just want to say to the mayor that I appreciated your explanation on the 12th of why this wasn't possible, but the fact that the elected officials took time to discuss this really touched me, and I want to say you've given me faith and confidence in the people who oversee our community. Thank you.
On behalf of council, thank you, Mabel, for those remarks. Is there anyone else who wishes to address council? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Regular council September 26, 2023. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Romero. All those in favor? Passed. It's the time of year and we prepare for winter, and there's a recommendation dealing with the trucking of bulk salt. There is a motion within your package, if someone would so make that motion. Councillor Brown.
I recommend that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality approve the tender PW09-2023-2024 trucking of bulk salt be awarded to Van Dyke Excavation and Trucking for the tender price of $78.76 per metric ton plus HST for the 2023-2024 winter season.
Thank you, Councillor Brown, and that's seconded by Councillor Muse. Director Grant.
So as you read, we posted a tender the same as we do every year, and this year we've seen probably the largest increase that we have in recent years. It matches up with market trends and fuel and operating costs increase, and it is significant.
I have a question. It says budget impacts not applicable. Did we budget? How do you think we're going to be on our budget for? I know it's weather related.
That's right. So it's all based on consumption and application, how much we use, what kind of season we have. So it's too early to say what the impact will be. We definitely didn't budget $79 a ton. We were between 50 and 79, so we'll see how the year goes.
So hopefully you won't be back in front of us if you need more money for salt, because that indicates we're having a winter.
Sure.
Any questions of Director Grant? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, this may be more of a finance thing, but when we do our budgeting for our winter roads, if we have a really good winter, do we keep money in a reserve, or does that just go back into operating?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's all taken off. It's unusual, I think, that we would save money on salt. We generally buy the same quantity every year. We haven't seen any real changes in volume of salt, whether it's a good winter or a bad winter. It seems like the application still gets the same.
Seeing no other questions, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary. 7.2 ice resurfacer is again falls under Director Grant. If someone would make that motion. Councillor Hawks.
I move that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality approves the purchase of a 2024 Zamboni 450 from Saunders Equipment Limited, Fredericton, NB, at a price of $156,500 plus HST.
And that's seconded by Councillor Brown. And on the good note, we had some funds for this, which Director Grant, you'll explain.
That's right. So the Director of Recreation applied for a grant, and the project was fully funded based on our budget amount that we had. So we put out for tender for a replacement with an electric model. We got 2 proposals back. One didn't meet spec, one did, and by default, that was the winning tender.
Any questions of Director Grant? So I guess we're thankful to Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage because they provided $205,000 for this Zamboni, and the difference between the price and the grant will be used for the EV charging station and other equipment that's required to be used with this electric Zamboni. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, just the question I had in there was the installation of a laser-guided level system. Well, is this something that's going to just improve the quality of the ice, make it more level, and make it more world-class than it already is?
So it's twofold, kind of in that sense. So it'll improve the consistency of the ice from one end to the other. It'll benchmark it and get a consistent layer. At the same time, it'll ease operator tension when they're out there with a crowd, that they don't have to worry about so many things going on, because the conditioner will automatically adjust and make sure that it gets the same finish every time.
Councillor, Deputy Mayor Fancy? Oh, Councillor Romero.
I'm just wondering, do we have a cost for this additional equipment and the laser guide?
The additional equipment was, I believe it was less than 25,000. I don't have it in front of me, but it was within budget with the project complete.
Deputy Mayor Fancy?
Yeah, so we did have some kind of a laser unit in there before to be able to keep the temperature of the ice, didn't we?
Yeah, so 2 different things. We have an infrared sensor that shines on the ice and gives us a slab temperature. This here is just strictly for vertical control of the ice surface to make sure it maintains a consistent level. So 2 different things.
Seeing no other comments, I'm going to ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? 7.3 J-class, J-class roads. As you can recall, every year we're asked to do this. There's a motion because we need an overrun, and I see Deputy Mayor Fancy, in whose district this road is, would like to make this recommendation.
I also recommend that the Council of the Region of Queens Municipality approve the overage for the Oliver Street paving project of $18,715.
Seconded by Councillor Charlton. And in absence of our Director of Corporate Services, CEO McDougall will address this matter.
Oh, good to go? Yeah. So I know this isn't the first time you've applied for this program. So you selected Oliver Street earlier in the year as part of the project agreement with the province. If there's cost overruns or more than 10%, council approval to fund the cost overruns is required. The budget was $31,285, and that's what you included in your budget. So there were the new cost share amount is $50,000. So I think that's where you are. If you want to proceed with the road paving, you need to approve the cost overruns.
Any comments from council? Any comments, Councillor Charlton? Oh, you were first?
Yeah, it's red. When we did the applications, we had 3 roads that we picked and put through. So is this the only one that the province agreed to fund?
Yes,
that
we
how-
heard back from this several months ago. It was the shortest of the roads, and we used the formula the province had always indicated, $300,000 for repaving. But obviously, this road is like 0.2 kilometers long. So obviously, it's costing much more than 300,000 a kilometer to repave if it's 100,000 to pave 0.2 kilometers.
All right, thanks.
Councillor Charlton?
I was just going to say it's nice to be able to invest in these J-class roads because so often people who live outside of town, you know, they're complaining about the roads, and the J-class roads that we do have a piece in currently allows us to advocate for them to get this. So although we only got Oliver Street, our first pick was up by the daycare, but they have since patched that road, and it's way better. So luckily that was already done, and now with this one, I think there's great value in this, and I hope to see this continue.
And we all recognize that these are provincial roads. And I know School Street in Milton, I've had many people on that street contact me about that road. And I am going to try my utmost to see if the provincial government will not fix some of the craters on that road. I think it's one of the worst roads I've been on, and sadly it's never made our list, but it's extremely long road as well. Would be $1 million or whatever. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Fancy?
Yeah, so I think this is the start of it. We kind of left the roads go for too long and we got behind. Is it possible when we start looking at roads, I know like Carl had even mentioned out I guess what the old park houses was, there's a road there. So can we break things up into portions like maybe 200 feet and stuff like that? Is it possible to make applications that way rather than just do one road? Because there's a lot of roads, it's portions, not the whole road.
I suspect we can ask for whatever we ask for, and whether or not we're given permission is another thing. But yes, if council wished to, when the list comes out again on J-class roads, if they wish to delineate a certain section of a road, that's a question we could ask, but generally they want to know the specifics. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, some of the roads that we talk about weren't actually on the J-class list. So we have, when we went through our list in the spring to find these roads in budget time, some of the roads that are in really bad shape were not J-class roads. They're the full sole responsibility of the province. And any of us that sat through the presentation on the Sermgar, this could all change. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with our roads going forward, what the funding formulas are going to be, and who's going to end up owning them once they get fixed. So, but a lot of the roads that we would love to see fixed are not on the J-class, so we don't have the option of putting them on the list. So we, just pointing that out.
Yeah, I think it's important because people who do live on the J-class road, School Street being one and Pine Street being another, when they contact the Provincial Department of Public Works or Infrastructure, they're immediately told it's a J-class road, it's a municipality's responsibility. So therefore, but again, we might as well own those roads if we're going to be paying millions of dollars to repave them. However, another discussion for another day. Seeing no other comments, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? Passed. 7.4, Councillor Gidney would like to make this motion.
I recommend that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality apply to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board for a one-time reduction of the consumption rate of 70% for 1 quarter only, to be funded from the utility reserve.
And that's seconded by Councillor Brown. C.A. McDougall, I know our director had been working on this, and manager of finance, who's unable to be here, is going to report. So again, this falls back to you.
Yeah, so at the September 26th council meeting, staff were directed to prepare an application to the Utility Review Board for a one-time reduction in the consumption rate of 70%. The reduction would be funded from utility reserve, which started to be established around 2009. The reserve has a balance of about $180,000 and has not been used since it was established. The estimated cost of the reduction is approximately $56,000. The billing cycle is from August 22nd to November 30th. Invoices would be completed, adjusted, and mailed before the Christmas break. With a date of January 1st. So if the application is reviewed, approved, and granted by the Utility Review Board in time, staff would apply that reduction to the billing. I know that the staff have prepared the application, the affidavits, and petition documents. It's a fairly formal process. I have signed them, they're ready to go. So all it requires is council consideration, and if approved, we'll get that off to the Utility Review Board promptly.
Thank you, CEO McDougall. Any comments or questions? Councillor Brown?
The only comment I'd like to make is that I'm happy to see that that it's being funded out of the reserve and not from the general operating reserve, because my biggest concern with this was that people who were not members of the water utility would be funding this, and now that that's not happening, I'm fully in support of it.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Charlton?
I'd just like to thank all of our staff who worked so promptly on this to get this ready. Thank you.
And seeing no other questions, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Contrary? 7.5, I circulated a set of photos on this side of the room. Have they made it all around the room? Okay. So we're joined with Special Constable Kellyanne Hurley and Special Constable Jason Hartung. There is a recommendation within the package. We've not dealt with unsightly, maybe one or two. Does council wish to hear the case and then make the recommendation on this where we've had no discussion? I'm just looking for direction. Or do you want to come right off with the recommendation? Right off with the recommendation. Okay. So someone make the recommendation, please. Councillor Hawks.
I so move that the Region of Queens Municipality Council declare the property located at 9777 Highway 8, Caledonia, Queens County, Nova Scotia, and identified as PID number 70154539 as dangerous or unsightly as defined in the Municipal Government Act of Nova Scotia. And that the Region of Queens Municipal Council cause an order to be served upon the estate of Wallace Bede and the person in charge of thereof, Patrick McInnes, located at 9777 Highway 8, Caledonia, Queens County, Nova Scotia, requiring that within 30 days of the date of service of the order, the following work be carried out. 1. Clean up all materials, plastic, toys, tires, recyclables, household garbage, construction and demolition materials strewn about the property or noted as remnant remains or property stored thereof. 2. Demolition of one small makeshift outbuilding / chicken coop that is falling over. 3. Leveling of property accordingly removing holes and tripping hazard. And that if the estate of Wallace Mead and the person in charge thereof, Patrick McInnes, fails to comply with the order, the administrator may cause the requirements of the order to be carried out and all expenses incurred by the Region of Queens Municipality become the responsibility of the parties of interest.
And that is seconded by Councillor Brown.
Good morning. First things first.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good morning. First things first, I'd like to introduce Jason Hartung. Jason is our part-time bylaw enforcement officer, and he'll be with us 2.5 days a week. So if there's anyone here that hasn't met him, take the time to get to know him. He's a wonderful man. 9777 Highway 8, Caledonia, Queens County, Nova Scotia. Property owner Wallace Mead. Deceased, estate thereof. Person in charge, Patrick McGinnis. PID number 701-54539. This property has been on the Region of Queens by law enforcement roster for dangerous and unsightly premises on and off since 2012. I have conducted many a cleanup of this property, and it seems to hit our roster at least every second year. In June of this year, the mobile home situated on the property sustained catastrophic damage from an undetermined fire. The damages rendered the property as an immediate threat to public safety, as the structural integrity of the mobile home was compromised. As the property owner is deceased, by law enforcement made immediate contact with the tenant presently residing on the property, whom advised that there was a life lease. There was a person in charge thereof, and this representative is Patrick McGinnis. Unfortunately, Mr. McGinnis was unable to come today. He was immediately contacted, and a cleanup commenced quite slowly. To this date, the dwelling has been fully demolished via demolition permit 116-23 that was issued in July of 2023. The property is now considered to be unsightly and requires a full cleanup. The recommendations were made to you today: cleanup of all metals, plastics, toys, tires, recycles, household garbage, construction and demolition materials strewn about the property or noted as remnant remains or property stored of that was contained within the mobile home. Demolition of one makeshift outbuilding chicken coop that's falling over, and leveling of the property accordingly, removing all holes and tripping hazards. These recommendations are exactly as noted in the formal order to comply, in which was given to the tenant and to the person in charge thereof, dated September 15th of 2023. It's recommended that a deadline for completion of this project to bring it up to within what we consider to be neighborhood standards, a total of 30 days. The deadline would be Friday, November 10th. This is our recommendation to you today.
Is there anyone in disagreement that Friday, November 10th is not a good date, 30 days from now, in order to clean up the yard, tear down a fallen down small building, and level off the property? No? Okay. Any questions that you may have of Constable Hurley or Hartung? No. If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Passed.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Should wish Constable Hurley a happy birthday.
Two items for discussion. Gray boxes on private roads. Perhaps Director Grant and Mr. Scott can come forward. This, you may sit, please. Yes, you may put that down. Actually, it's a good idea to keep that down so that we can see everyone. Perfect. Councillor Brown, you asked for this to be added to the agenda.
I'd just like to clarify that when I asked for this, I asked for it for all gray bins, not just for the LaBelle area. But the LaBelle area is what's triggering a lot of the issues for me. I've also gotten a lot of complaints from Baker's Point, Chapel Hill. I know they had problems in Beach Meadows with them. There was problems in Garden Road before they took that one out and went to household collection. So everywhere that we've had a gray bin, eventually there's a problem. And staff have been really good about do it on an ad hoc basis, cleaning up the issue, finding a solution, but we rapidly outgrow those solutions. You know, we're in a quick growing area. We can fix some of them with engineering, or we can fix them with enforcement. But whichever way we go, it's gonna take a budget item to do it. So I just wanted to get this started for this time of year, so that if we can come up with some kind of a solution to move forward, we can put it in next year's budget to be ready for cottage season, because most of these gray boxes are on private roads, cottage areas, things like that. One of the things I noticed this year was that we had our enforcement people going out on different weekends, just on a notifying people what's right, what's wrong. Sandra was going around telling people on those weekends the bins were big enough to hold all the garbage. So, you know, it's not that we have a capacity problem, we have a people problem, that they're putting disallowed garbage in the bins, filling them up, so then people are dumping them on. We've got a health and safety issue with people tearing the garbage bins open every weekend, sorting through it. You know, half the time you come by, you'll see a bin with a set of legs sticking out of it. You know, people are diving right in, and that's not safe for them, it's not safe for the other people, it's not safe for the people cleaning it. We had one case that I called our director. Somebody actually dumped fecal material on the ground in front of the bins. That's, in no way is this right. And it wouldn't be accepted in any other part of the community. And these are our most beautiful areas, you know, our woodland areas by our lakes, by, you know, where people go to get away, and we have mounds of garbage every weekend. So we need to move forward with finding a solution, and it's not going to be an easy solution to find. So it's either going to be cameras to allow by law enforcement to lay charges, to do video, to get people in the act, or we could go with something like they do in Ontario, where they have an engineered solution where they have large bins on the side of a hill where people can drive up, throw their garbage in. It's fenced in around to keep the animals away, to keep the people from diving in it, and they come with a bigger truck and take it away less frequently. You know, there's multiple solutions. We have to find one of them. This has been ongoing for way too long. And I guess one of the other big issues is now that we're starting to see with the great green bins, like there's communal green bins put out there that are not in any way secure from animals, but they're attracting raccoons, rats, bears into people's communities. You know, it's becoming a real safety issue for people. So a lot of people are taking their recyclables and compostables, throwing them in with the regular garbage rather than putting them in the green bin to try to short circuit that solution. We're losing diversion credits. You know, we have to find a solution, and it's going to take money, and to start the discussion now to get it on the budget for next year, to have a solution possibly by the following year, we have to start now.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I just have a couple questions to staff. How much of the garbage they recycle that people put there, how much do they actually take the effort to separate it? Like, how much do they actually separate, or how much is just actually mixed?
No, the residents in the cottage country, the private roads do a fairly good job. All the tools are there to place sorted recyclables, garbage, and compost, and they, for the most part, they do a fairly admirable job. It doesn't take long to undo that, though, when you get somebody that wants to unload a car of whatever that are not from that area. So that is one of the blemishes on the thing. And, yeah. But for the most part, they do a good job.
Does staff have any suggestions on how perhaps in the next 7-8 weeks discussions can evolve around some solutions? Is it worthwhile to have a community meeting for people with gray boxes? Not to hear them shake their finger and tell us everything we've done wrong, but perhaps some people that live on private roads, perhaps they have some alternatives. I'm thinking of the large sites. Do they have to be large? Can we redistribute those to smaller sites? Do you think it's worthwhile to have a meeting with Councillor Brown and myself and any other councillor who may be affected by private boxes, just to go and listen to see if the people on private roads, perhaps they have some ideas?
I guess off the cuff, I think every council in the room has gray boxes in their area. And if the residents that use them have solutions that they can offer, they're welcome to provide them anytime. What works, what doesn't work, we'll receive that feedback continuously. The folks that abuse the gray box opportunity aren't going to come to a community meeting and tell you why that they're abusing it, and that's what we need to find out. We've tried different methodologies over the years to try and make it easier from increasing collection schedules to increasing our staff time to whatever. So there is a solution out there, but at the same time, it's on their responsibility to be honest and fair and treat them with respect, which they don't.
So how do we prepare for budget? Do we need an ad hoc, just a little group of council people to meet with staff to come up with ideas? Do we need suggestions? Do we need money for cameras? Bylaw, perhaps Special Constable Hurley can join us as she often deals with this. Is our bylaw stiff enough to actually charge someone for depositing, let's say, next week if I want to go and dump off a fridge and a stove? Is our bylaw strong enough that it would actually support in court?
We do have the ability, if we can get a conviction and find with proper evidence, but the problem is being there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and having enough to go to court that supports that. If council wants, we can go back and come back with proposals to do an independent consultation, find a contractor, consultant that can come in and do an investigation, what other areas are doing, what works, what doesn't work, and provide solutions for next budget year. But right now, I mean, as far as staff time goes, we don't have a tremendous amount of free time to dive into it.
Would we have money in a budget line in order to do that, or would we have to make a motion to use some money from like special operating reserve if we wanted to get to the bottom of, is it cameras? And if it's cameras, is it Wi-Fi? Do we have enough signal there? There's no cell coverage. Is that something that council thinks we should bring someone else in to help us with? Councillor Hurley, you've investigated many of these boxes. What would be some thoughts that you would have?
Well, first things first, I do believe that the illegal dumping or fine is $697.50. I feel that's stringent. It's trying to prove, of course. I have residents that put forth videos and photographs, but I actually have to be able to identify these individuals. And the difficulty is trying to place the present camera that we have now in a location so we can pick up license plate numbers and so we can identify the dumpers, and it's difficult to do. We have only the one camera. I did speak with Steve Wynot some time ago, and he said that it could be something that he could definitely look into. He's our IT person. And see if we can find something. Sometimes the internet is very spotty out there. But I'm sure there's something that we could implement. The other thing is having the cameras stolen. So we have to ensure that we are able to secure the camera in a location so that we're not going to lose them. Scott, we've tried everything out at the Sunhaven garbage boxes. We call that super site. And trying to find a location to adhere the camera to a pole or a tree so that it's not visible is a challenge. So it is something that we have attempted to do on many occasions. We have to find a way to install them so that people don't know that they're there. And again, we would use that as an admission of guilt for a court process.
But if we installed them in a way that people couldn't get at them other than shoot them out, which I'm hoping people wouldn't do. But if we installed them and they were visible and they were high enough and they were a good enough quality camera, wouldn't that deter people?
It would, but the present camera that we have now takes batteries. And those batteries have to be changed on a very frequent basis, depending on how frequent we have the photographs being taken. And so shimmying up a pole or a tree is not the easiest thing either to try to change batteries. And it's something as simple as batteries.
So we need to come up with a plan. And it's back to Director Adams' comment. Is it worthwhile to bring in someone who can look at this from a third point of view? Councillor Brown and then Deputy Mayor Fancy.
Yeah, I also talked to Steve, and one of the solutions that is out there is cameras that can be hooked into the fiber op system that's out there, and Nova Scotia Power can put a plug-in receptacle on the top of a power pole, the same as we do for the wreaths that we have in Liverpool right now. So you'd have the power there, you'd have a full-time system that would be hooked to fiber op, would be allowed to probably send pictures or video, depending on what you wanted, and it would be high enough that people couldn't get it. The problem there is getting the right angle from the pole. It might require putting a new power pole in an area to give you the right angles, which is not prohibitively expensive when we're looking at $1,500 for a pole or whatever, $30,000 for a camera. That's not the huge portion of it to get the right angles. So I think we can engineer a solution for that.
And just before Deputy Mayor Fancy, and while some viewers may be watching and thinking of how much do we spend to look after this, I think people need to realize that the area in which we're speaking, all private roads, no garbage collection at your doorstep, no street lights, this is the assessment area that has the greatest amount of assessment money for the region of Queens in 2023. So we're getting a large amount of assessment dollars out of this assessment district. And if we need to spend whatever is required to finally curb this problem, then I think that's something we need to consider. Deputy Mayor Fancy?
Okay, I was part of that back a few years ago when we tried putting up a camera, and of course we couldn't get the internet connection. So it's always going to be a problem that way out there. But to look at it from the other perspective of trying to curb it rather than trying to enforce it, is there, I'll just say a few things, and I don't know, maybe they're practical, maybe they're not practical, but I think that's what we're all here for, just to put out ideas. If we, as we had talked here before, that maybe we put out containers out there in the spring and in the fall in particular, and let everybody know that it's going to be there, especially for people coming in cottage country, to clean out the cottages, or they're in the spring, or cleaning them out when they're coming in the fall. So you have 2 times of the year that if we even say it, that this is going to be there, so then maybe that they get put into the proper place, or it doesn't get just strewn all over the ground. That's just one quick question, quick thought. And then maybe, I don't know if we could do it is maybe on that same type of thought a couple times a year, that maybe we could get, I don't know if the garbage truck could drive back through there, that they could come along and pick up things if they left it by the roadside. The people left it by the cottages, that maybe we could get the garbage truck to drive through and pick up. Just something where we can try to catch these things so they don't just get thrown all over the place. The other thing is, we talked before about segregating the garbages to a degree, something that's usable. Somebody that has a nice couch that's, but they just want to get rid of it because they got a new one, that maybe we could put this over in one spot that somebody could actually come pick it up and take it away if it was good for somebody else. I don't know if we would want to get into that kind of thing or not, but it's just thoughts of how we could try to curb some of this, that people who are, I call it more seasonal, that we could be able to try to, if we could be able to put these things out there, maybe we could be able to help ourselves a bit. Anyway, just some thoughts.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, when you mentioned about it being the area with the highest assessment, but I think what a lot of people in the county don't realize is that we have, I think it's around 40 of these gray bin sites in the county, and I think from talking to staff, picking up garbage from those 40 sites costs as much as the garbage pickup for every other household in the county. You know, it's almost fully half of our garbage collection budget. So I think, you know, anything that we can do to make that better has a potential for big savings in our garbage contract, which is one of our largest expenses that we have every year. We have places out there that they're coming with 3 trucks twice a week or 3 times a week, you know, and they're filling 3 trucks. So they're coming with a recyclable, they're coming with a garbage, they're coming with a compostable, or they've got a segregated truck that has different compartments. So they are sorting it as they can, but it's still a huge cost to have trucks coming out there 3 times a week for 6, 7 months a year, when we could probably find a better solution to use that money in a better way.
So how do we find the better solution? We heard from Director Grant, who referenced that there's companies that may be able to investigate, look into this, come up with solutions. Do you want to expand on that, or does Councillor Charlton?
I was just wondering if there has been much consideration before to move some of these to a regular garbage collection, recognizing that the garbage truck may not be, able to get into all of these areas. Curious about that, and then I guess also favorable to the idea of embracing technology and getting the right thing so that we could enforce in the short term, regardless where we go with this.
It's a complicated problem. There's a lot of different factors to take into account. When you look at collection on private roads, you can't get your conventional garbage truck down them. They just don't fit. Those roads weren't designed and constructed to accommodate large vehicles, and they don't. So then we have in place other measures to collect at other sites. There's a lot of factors to consider and narrow down and try to provide the best solution that you can, and that's what we have. So we've looked at moving them. The problem is getting right-of-way allowance or property use for those sites. Nobody wants a gray box on their site that I'm aware of. On their private property, they wouldn't offer that up. So getting a site that's highly optical, that the public doesn't abuse it, but at the same time is not so out of the way that people will use it. So combining proper use with illegal dumping to try and merge both of them together. It's not an easy solution, obviously.
So what do we do? Because I know that this is a discussion that's probably been happening since 1995, since amalgamation and prior to that with former municipality. Councillor Charlton?
Could we not have staff investigate what it would take to put cameras and use that Sunhaven super site as like a pilot? Essentially, it's the worst site. So could we investigate the cameras at that site and then also have this become something that staff works on that comes back during budget with some options of what we could consider, if we wanted to, if it was, trying to get the garbage trucks to collect, and maybe you can't do it for all. Maybe there's certain sites, like Adam said, that are accessible and some that aren't. Just wondering if we could have some options come back, because it sounds like we are aware of all of the challenges, and so I wonder if, do we really need a consultant to tell us what we already know? I'm uncertain, but if we could have some information come back so that we would at least know where to go, maybe the consensus of council is to is to try the cameras for a year and see what happens, see if it cuts down on this. I don't think that's probably the entire answer, but in trying to do something fairly quickly, I think if we could get some information on that, we'd be able to move forward with at least that. It's just my opinion.
Jason? Mr. Hartung?
Yeah, thank you. Just speaking to my past experience, I know that lights, signage, cameras can go a long way. In this particular scenario, having a powered pole with a camera would just simply take one high definition camera at the right angle. With good lighting and a lot of signage about fees and other options and for dumping, disposal, and of course that there is a camera on site, usually goes a long way to deter people and use the facility properly.
So if we leave this in the hands of our CAO, and, but is the message we want to give high definition camera, powered poles, and ensure that signage and lighting is sufficient? Is that, or is that where we're starting? Powered poles, lighting, signage, and good quality high definition cameras. Councillor Brown?
I think that will go a long way, and I think we have to be careful in making one pilot site out of that, because if we're taking LaBelle as an example and we're using the Sun Haven site, the super site, we have really good internet out there, and word will get around really quick that that's the site you don't dump at, so they'll dump at the other two. So I think we have to kind of make a blanket approach in that big area to hit all three sites, so that, you know, Scott's told me different times he's gone out on patrol to try to catch people. People see him in one site, they just drive by him and dump at another site. You know, it's, people are people, and they'll try to get away with it. But I think if we put some enforcement, some deterrence, along with education, it's all helped. This has been the best year that we've had for complaints out there. So, you know, but I think we're going to rapidly outgrow the solutions that we put in place this year, and next year is going to be bad again. So I think we have to have a blanket approach in at least that area to test to see if it works.
So 3 sites, we have 3 problematic sites there. Are we in agreement that we want pricing for 3 sites? For the 3 sites?
Councillor Brown, what sites are you referring to? I know Narrows Road and the super site. What would be the third?
Narrows East, Narrows West.
Oh, Narrows East. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
People are coming in.
Oh, we can't hear you, Councillor Brown, because, there you go.
Yeah, with the 3 sites there, you catch people coming in. You know, a lot of people are bringing their garbage in on the weekends. Those bins are full on Friday night. You know, so that a lot of that garbage is coming in from other jurisdictions, dropped off on the way to the cottage, and there's no room to put everything in there. So, you know, capturing the entry and the center areas, I think will go a long ways to fixing the problem.
Councillor Amaro?
Maybe it's possible we could have some type of information flyer as well, distributed to the seasonal residents. That may help as well, to give them some information.
Yeah, it could be, I believe if we put the proper signage at the sites, which is there, stating when the landfill's open, and it is open Saturday mornings till 2, what the only materials that is allowed to be placed at those gray boxes, except for big garbage pickup. That might, maybe there'll be a few, but we'll wait for recommendations to come back to council, and then through IT they can price them out, so we can have an idea of what we're looking at for costing. Councillor Hurley? Constable.
Thank you. We have all that signage in place right now. As a matter of fact, I think we've provided overkill with signage out there.
Okay, so everyone's satisfied with directions. Councillor Brown, are you satisfied now?
I'm satisfied that it's a good first step. I think we've gone a long way with education. We've, you know, done a lot that way. I think you can only do so much with education if people don't want to listen to the message. You know, we've given them enough carrot, now it's time for a little stick.
Okay, thank you. 8.2 homelessness in Queens. I've added this, and it's unfortunate Director Lane is not here because he wished to be part of this. So perhaps I'll just brief you on it, and then we'll see it back as a discussion item on our next council agenda. In discussions with Director Lane, who is in charge of economic development, he said generally economic development is a top-down approach, where you start at the top and you work your way down. Looking at homelessness, he said, is an interesting bottom-up approach. I think it's important that we understand in Queens County the extent of homelessness, be it a family living in a grandmother's backyard to sleep while someone goes to work, or if it's someone in a car, if it's someone in a building, if it's someone couch surfing. I was attending a meeting with Mayor Savage the other day, and he suggested that within Halifax itself, homelessness will double in a very short time frame. In Halifax, there's, as we probably know from the news, you have 40 tents on Town Hall lawn. You have 60 tents scattered around the city, plus who knows how many people living in the rurals. And homeless people are no longer, unfortunately, when we think homelessness, 15 years ago, you would have thought of someone who had addiction problems or someone who may have had some mental ill health. Homelessness today are people that are working. And I think it's time that we just understand the level of the issue in Queens County. Because if we're asked, we may say, I don't know. But then if you talk to teachers and you talk to other people, it is a problem. What we can do about it, I don't know. But I would just like to be able, and I think as a council, we need to understand the extent and the reasons behind it. So I just wanted to bring that forward for any comments. Councillor Charlton?
I'm just wondering, I know like the South Shore Open Doors, they share information, and I'm just wondering, have they ever been invited to do a presentation here? I'm just thinking in with what, I don't know obviously what Richard had planned on bringing forward, but that could be a good opportunity for us to understand what's going on, because they represent not only Lunenburg but Queens as well. So maybe one of us could reach out to them and see if they would be up for doing a presentation.
Yeah, that's not up to us. It would be up to staff. And whether or not we need a presentation, I think we really need the numbers. We
Yeah.
need to understand, and if staff could work with them, I mean, there's so much privacy in this matter. But to have an understanding of where, who, ages, demographic.
That's what I met Mayor Norman in the presentation. They provide some things that they share on social media that say those numbers. That was what I had.
And Richard, Director Lane's aware, but they don't capture. There's the people that are not all captured, and that could be a start. But if we let this, is there anyone who would object if we directed our CAO to leave this in the hands with our economic director, who's looking at trying to understand a bottom-up approach to economic development, and if he so chooses to invite them in so we can have a better education. But I think it's important to know the numbers and to know the projection. Is there anyone who would be an objection to that, Deputy Mayor Fancy?
Yeah, I think also too, I think we should be looking at if we want to help and how we want to help. I think if you were talking with the mayor in Halifax, I think what they do there, of course, what they've done is they've put a spot where they could tent. I don't know, because maybe people wouldn't want to tent, but at least we could have a spot that we could say they could go to, that they wouldn't feel that they would be out of the way. I know, I'm pretty sure they do up there too, is they give out sleeping bags for somebody who has to sleep outdoors. I've been approached lately about someone who is sleeping under one of these tables, and it scared people when they walk through there in the middle of in the morning, and there they are sleeping under a table. So there are some others that are actually out there that is starting to get cold weather. Is that something we want to look at? Is in any way we could help? I guess just a different approach to see what we want to do.
Yeah, I think that is a discussion that follows with a better understanding. I know Mayor Savage, in Halifax, they've spent an incredible amount of municipal money on things that he said were not municipal responsibility, but someone has to do it. And he doesn't want to point the finger at blame at any other level of government. But someone has to do it. And in Halifax, HRM has paid for modular housing. How I think we just need to first understand the situation, and then if there's any solutions that we can help with, I'm sure we would. But first, we have to understand the extent of the situation. Councillor Gidney? Oh, no, Councillor Brown. He's red, you're green.
Yeah, at some of the past NSFM conventions, I talked to some of the Halifax councillors, and you know, I think they're going to be a good resource for however we go with this, because they've taken some approaches that they found out were not as effective initially. You know, their initial thought was that if you provide everybody a home, people will go into the home, get off the street, and then transition to an apartment, like move up the socioeconomic scale, and it doesn't work that way. They found out that just does not work. Some people are not able to function in that, and the best thing you can do is give them whatever support you can to keep them going. You know, so I think that they'll be a really good resource for us. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Edmonton and Calgary, and if you want to see a different set of homeless, you know, tent cities, it's completely different there than it is in Halifax, where most of the ones in Halifax are people that are working and unhomed. Out there, you'd see people doing intravenous drug use on the street. So it was drug overdoses as you walked by. You know, families, the crime that goes with it. It's something that if we don't get a handle on this and help people, help them transition, it's a cancer that will grow in a town. And it's, you know, as people lose hope, they look for hope in a pipe or a needle or something like that. And we don't want to force people into that. We want to find a way to help them somehow. So I agree with it, that we need, you know, economic development from the bottom up. Probably a very good approach.
Yeah. Any other comments? Councillor Gidney?
I was reviewing this over the weekend. There's on Google, homelessness on the rise in Halifax region as tents continue to pop up. It's a very good article. It touches base on different things, different aspects. There's a lot of things that we can't do, but there's a lot of things that we can do. And I think that's what we've got to look at, is what we can do. We can open things up. We can do other things. Councillor Amiro and I had a brief discussion on some of the things that we could do as a region. And there again, if we want to take this to a further step, then by all means, I agree with that, because there's a lot of things that we can still continue to research, not just staff, but as councillors, and look at things going on around us and avoid the mistakes or the inaccuracy mistakes that other regions have made, or the municipalities have made, because all of it's been tried and true. And that's why I think we should follow what's working and work from there. So I'm agreeing to hold off to another meeting. Thank you.
Follow the good steps. So we'll just direct this, and then when staff are ready to come back, then we'll have another discussion about what they found. I think what really strikes home, and I'm sure some of you have heard as well, I receive calls from people who are living in inadequate housing, let's say, and the region should go move them out and whatever. And I simply tell people 15 years ago, yes, but this is a different era right now. We have people living, at least they have a roof over their head. It may not meet every national building code there is, but at least they're dry. And that's where we are. And we need to figure out what can be done about it and what numbers we have. And anyway, okay, so that's the end of that discussion. Thank you very much. And on that note, we have no in-camera items, so I adjourn the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone, tomorrow's your play park opening at 1 o'clock. At Lee